So with Expedition Beyond now, with its blitzing mechanic, you can try and push for the highest stage you can possibly get to with full buffs, and then you can just never worry about it ever again. You can just blitz it every single day, research gear, no badges, no buffs, doesn't matter. So for a lot of people, it's in their best interest to really push as hard as they can to get to that one next stage, because the amount of account growth or the refined rough will give you for your stat increases will just pay off so much in the long term. And with Nightmare especially, unless you're spending huge amounts of money to get decent stats, and especially commander rarities, which are so important in Expedition Beyond, it can be very hard to get down. So obviously when setting up for it, you want full buffs, you want combat talents, you want a 20% attack buff, you want fervor, you want level 60 Dungeon Lord for the 30% total attack, you want Hall of Faces running, you want Combat Castle skin, Combat March skin, as many buffs as you can get, and we're ready to go. Obviously PvP gear and badges too. So you go in, you refresh stages, and then the first thing you want to do is scout what you have at the end. So our 10th stage here is full imp. That means that we need to protect our cavalry until the end as much as possible. Here again is 2 imp and a spear mixed. So what we're seeing here is we really need to save our cavalry. And here is very mixed, which is not ideal. If you might need to keep trying this on multiple days and just try and have it line up with the formations, because if the last 3 or 4 are all mixed, it's very, very difficult unless you just have huge stats. Ooh, Reese member Charney. Okay, so what I'm seeing here is at the start, throughout this whole thing, there's infantry in all these later stages, so we need to use our spears and cav as meat shields where possible to protect them and keep the damage off the cav so they can do the damage to kill these infantry. So at the start, what I always do is just send full bowman, because we want to keep the damage off our counter units, because bowman can't counter anything, so they just have lower damage ceiling. So we just send full bowman until they're all dead. You could argue this isn't the most efficient way of doing it, but I believe it to be. Because, like, bows, unless you're like built into them, you could potentially swap badges into bow attack and they could be decent, I guess, but that is something you probably might have to do if you're not a huge account, is swap badges between stages just to min-max your stats as much as possible. So I don't know how many people actually know this, but you can actually see the formation of the enemy stage by clicking that power comparison. So obviously here we know their formation because we've already heard them. So we send spears here because they're cav and spear. So our front line can't be countered basically. If there's 2 unit types, that's always what you want to do. Okay, it doesn't matter, it's so low. But now here, where we're hitting on the first time, we want to see their formation like that. So they're cav imp, they have no cav, so it's basically imp spear. And then here we see the main trick to get further in Expedition Beyond, which is controlling the damage in your commanders. So as we've figured out from scouting ahead, we really need to protect our cavalry. So here we put 3 imp in the front, and they can't be countered because they have imp and spear. And then we have 2 cav in the back, so we will counter both their spear and their imp and our front line won't be countered. So then change our front line down there. Dead. And here again, it's the same concept. It's Imp Spear again. We want to protect the cav, even though they're 4 infantry. I mean, we can even go heavier on the Imp here, even though it's not entirely necessary. Obviously my stats are very good, so it goes down fairly easily, but the concepts still apply. So we scout their formation, it's Spear Imp. So they have 1 Spear, 2 Imp, 2 Cav. Here's where the decisions need to be made. So it's full Imp there. They have 1 Spear here. So I feel like at this point we really don't need to protect our Spear or our Imp at all. So Spear Imp. I think we can just send this again, or just full Imp. So the next stage does have 1 Spearman, but... Okay, so now it's 2 Cav, swap to full Spear, hard counter it. Yeah, Spear Imp, we just do Imp Cav again. Again, just put all the Imp out there because we don't need them for the next stage. We want to protect the Cav as best as possible. And then final stage, and we've got all our cavalry of no damage on them at all, so we can just send them at them. And it goes down. And that's how you push for higher stages in Expedition Beyond. So obviously it won't be that easy for most people, especially if you've actively searched for this video and wanted help for it. But it's just those thought processes that you want to go through is, what do I need at the end and how do I protect them? And then just adapt your formations accordingly. And obviously it's somewhat gated by commander rarities and stats, and that's out of your control to a point and just outside of account building. But if you keep pushing, keep improving your stats, you will get there eventually. It might take a while, but you will.